Second now. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the 5Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Martin115, and now mark number 3. I have upgraded. Joined by, shush you, just because you got to say what you are now. Joined by the now mark number 2, my lovely dance partner, Mr. Carmo.
How we doing, everybody? Welcome back for another week.
So everybody knows on the lead up to Scrapper Mania, we did our Road to Scrapper interviews, and well, what we're going to be doing for a lot of the Hard Knock shows is these type of interviews. So I asked Carmo, where should we start? How should we start? And Carmo had an idea for somebody, but you know, sometimes the marks don't agree, but it is what it is. So I'd like to introduce now at the time, all the way from Hard Knocks in
I am not being introduced by the 5Mark bullies. I can introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I am Stardom themselves. I am the legitimate Gallachini, and you are welcomed with my presence.
We're joined by Mr. Gallachini, the legitimate Cian Gallachini. I'll say it properly. How are you doing today, Mr. Gallachini?
I'm not doing too well. Before we start this interview, before we start this podcast, I expect an apology from you bullies for belittling me on social media. All the things you've said about me are stone cold lies.
Before we go any further, I will say that this is all Martin. I apologize anyway, but it's all Martin.
Thank you, Carmo. I appreciate that.
I'll say this much. I'm sorry that you've been having absolutely terrible luck in Hard Knocks between hitting yourself with a pang. You actually got bit in the arse by the Sem as well.
I'm trying not to relive that.
But look, I'll keep it. I'll be nice today. I apologize for everything I put up on the social medias. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Now we can have a lovely podcast and a lovely interview. My mind is yours.
Perfect. I'll let you just kick this off.
Well, we'll kick it off the same way that we always do. Gallachini, what is your first wrestling memory?
So for myself, wrestling has always been in my life. I asked my dad recently about this because since I was born, I pretty much watched wrestling. He said that something about it just clicked with me as a kid. I was 3. His earliest memory is me being afraid of Kane, terrified of the red suit Kane, was crying for ages over it. But my actual memory is I had cousins that had just started to outgrow wrestling around WrestleMania 22 and 23, and they'd given me their old DVDs because my parents don't get wrestling, not a fan. So they would not buy me pay-per-views or anything, so I never got to watch pay-per-views. But I got WrestleMania 22 and 23 on DVD. I watched those religiously. Every Friday night when there was a weekend, so I could stay up late on the TV in my room, I would put on WrestleMania 22 on the Friday and fall asleep halfway through because I was still quite young, and WrestleMania 23 and still fall asleep way too early before seeing the main events. So I think the one match that really sticks out to me as like, oh my god, this is the best thing in the world, is Edge versus Mick Foley, WrestleMania 22, and the Flaming Table. When I saw that, I was like, what lunatics. It was just, I couldn't take my eyes off it then. It was just, that made, whatever, 7 or 8 year old Gallachini spark an interest.
I was the exact same when I was really young with Kane. I remember in 2005, I went to a house show, and I found out the other day by listening to the lads interview with LJ. Myself and LJ were actually at the same house show. I remember on the way to the house show, I was like, Dad, what if Kane's there? Like, what if the pyro goes off? I was terrified. It was more of the pyro I was terrified of more than Kane. Thank fuck, I didn't know house shows don't do pyro. So Kane came out with a big show. I think they were the tag champs at the time, and I was like, oh thank God, thank fuck.
WrestleMania 22 versus Chris Masters and Carlito opens the show. I'll always remember that because that's always a match. I'm like, yeah, I love Carlito, love Chris Masters, love those guys.
Great match. I will tell you, I was at a house show in Dublin in 2004, and Kane came out, and I actually had to leave the building that I was so distraught and in tears. So we left the building before the main event.
What? No way.
Yeah,
Something
true,
similar
true.
happened to me too. At the one house show I went to was 2009. I think my memory might be a bit fuzzy on this, but I think it was John Cena and Edge in the main event, which would have been amazing to see. But typical of my dad, he was like, "All right, we got to beat traffic. Come on, we go out before the crowd." Yeah,
No.
never saw it. But the same house show, I
That's
think this
why.
is my favorite like wrestling story that I'll ever have. Um, so at the time, I was a big fan of Mickey James. Like 2009, I would have been about 10 maybe. I can't 10, 11. So I was quite young, still innocent, and I really wanted to bring a sign because I thought it was going to be on TV. I didn't know what a house show was. I was like, I'll be on TV. I want my sign. So I was a big fan of Mickey James. So I go upstairs. I work for hours on this poster, and I come downstairs with my poster like, Dad, I'm bringing this to the show. And he looks at it and he goes, his face changes, and he's like, "You can't bring that, Cian." It's like, "Why?" And he looks at the sign and it says, "Kiss me, Mickey." He was like, "Ah, everyone's gonna have that one. Everyone's gonna have that one." I was like, "Oh yeah, good idea. I'll go make another one." So
5 signs later, he just told me to stop.
yeah, I didn't even bring the sign then.
I've always had just a serious pet peeve with that because when if you're watching like a WrestleMania or something and like
Mm,
as the main event's like kind of halfway through, not exactly over, and you start to see the parents with their kids, I'm like, you paid all that money.
for
The
that
main,
match.
the main event is the match you're paying for, realistically, and you're just
Hmm.
walking out on it like, I've such a pet peeve for that.
Really annoys me. The only time I've done it as an adult would have been one. I think it was a Scrapper Man. It was a stadium show. I brought my friend who's not a big wrestling fan, but it was the one which had the Elite for the first time. So we had Kenny
Oh,
Megan, the Young Bucks at the stadium, and I was so hyped to see it. But we were looking at it. We had to get back to Limerick. It was too expensive to stay in Dublin. So we were looking, and the stadium's a bit far away. We were looking, we're like, how are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? So we got the entrances and had to leave then.
oh,
Otherwise, we
just
stranded in Dublin. So
just to make the
Yeah,
buses.
100%.
yeah,
That's the one bad thing with living down here is we have to try and make the buses.
no way around unless you have money to fork out for a hotel in Dublin.
So growing up, then who would you like? Who would have been like your person? Would say your favorite growing up then?
So I was the biggest TNA fan growing up. Just what I remember how it started in school. Everyone was a wrestling fan, but one guy was like, "That's fake," but I found the real wrestling, and it was TNA. So it shows what kids know. But I was like, "Oh, this is real," and I started watching it. It was on Bravo. It was like on a
Yeah,
Thursday at normal hours, so I could
Yeah.
actually like didn't have to like stay up late for it or anything. So I watched it. And I was like, "Wait, Kurt Angle's on this? Jeff Hardy's on this?" I was like, "Whoa, what is this show?" But then I ended up falling in love with like the TNA originals. Like I was a huge AJ Styles fan as a kid, huge Samoa Joe fan. I was a massive Curry Boy fan. I love Curry Man. Oh, Curry Man was I sing the song as a kid and people are like, what is he on about? Like, loved Curry Man. Eric Young, big fan of, and Motor City Machine Guns, favorite tag team of all time. Obsessed with them. They just the way they move, they look cool. Obsessed with it. X Division stuff is just my favorite wrestling.
it would have been as well, just something different. I remember I found TNA completely on accident because I remember I was just like going through the channels and I got to
Mm,
Bravo and it was just on. Literally, it just happened to be on. I was like, what is this? Ended up sitting down watching it like yourself. Was like, oh, there's Kurt Angle. He's on the WWE. I think Jeff was gone at the point.
mm.
I remember like instantly, like I don't know if you can kind of tell behind me, instantly became a massive AJ Styles mark. Massive AJ Styles mark.
Oh, he's so good. But I don't know. It's just I remember as well back in like primary school. We used to have I have the copybook somewhere. I must try find it, but I found it about a year ago. We used to do like our own drafts. So we everyone would like pick a wrestler one by one and see who had the best show.
Hmm.
Everyone's was just WWE. Mine was all like just TNA guys. I exclusively picked TNA guys because I was obsessed. Like I think I stopped watching WWE from like 2009 to 12 because I was just watching TNA. But then TNA kind of fell off a cliff, so I was like, back I go.
As well, I
Yeah.
think at that point it was on Challenge, and Challenge was gone, and then there was no form of us being able to
Mm.
watch it. I remember it being the same boat. It just disappeared, and I was like the last thing I remember watching was I don't remember what year it was. It was the Bound for Glory where Austin Aries won the title, and that was the
Oh, I was
last
well
thing
gone
I
by then. I think.
saw.
I think I was well gone
Oh,
by then.
that was a good match if you ever check it out. I'll let you go back in, Mr. Caramel.
Very good again. Yeah, I was just going to say then. So when did you finally decide that you were actually going to get involved in wrestling and actually start wrestling?
So it was always something I wanted to do and something I said I would do, and nobody ever took me seriously. Um, just because I was always like a small, skinny. Well, I'm not still small and skinny, but no one ever could see me as a wrestler because they were like, "Oh, that's what they do in America. That's not in Ireland." I was like, "Okay, true." But then I started, as I got older and maybe getting into college, I started Googling it, and I only saw that it was in Dublin. Like I saw Fight Factory, and I saw Phoenix at the time. I was like, oh, that's a lot of commitment to try travel there. I looked into it, but then I got too scared. I was just like, I can't do it. I can't go by myself. I was really, really nervous. And I remember I said it to my my family one time. I was in the middle of college. I was just finishing college. And they're like, what do you want to do with yourself? I was like, do you want? I really want to be a wrestler. They're like, cop on to yourself. No, cop on. That's not a career. I was like, okay, fine, fine. They can't talk me out of it. But I was living then with my buddies back in the summer of 2021. And I just saw Phoenix's Facebook just turn green. I was like, ooh, are they coming to Limerick? I was like, I'll have no excuses not to go if it's in Limerick. And shortly after they announced they were going to have a school in Limerick, so I was like, okay. I said to my friends that I was living with, I was like, guys, I'm going to become a wrestler. And they all started roaring laughing. They thought it was the funniest thing ever. They were like, you're mad. Like, what is this like? I was like, no, I want to do it. This is, you know me. I don't shut up about wrestling. This is me becoming a wrestler is the best thing for them because I forced wrestling on them for so long because I had like no friends who liked wrestling. It was just me, and I forced it on them. So then the school opened. It was a seminar with Foxy. It was the first day on
Oh,
a
wow.
Saturday. So I was like, right, I'm gonna go down. But I saw the word seminar, so I thought it was just gonna be Foxy talking. So I went down in jeans and like clothes. But then before I left the house, I was like, do you know what? Just in case I get to do something in a wrestling ring, I'm gonna bring a bag with shorts in it. So I went back to my house and got shorts. Thank God I did, because I went down, just walked in. So first thing you see when you walk into the gym is just a wrestling ring there. I was like, oh my God, this is coolest thing in the world. And I met Steve. Steve was like the first person I met there. And we took a class. I got to go take my first bump, do rolls, and I was like hooked straight away. That first day, I was like, this is the dream. This is everything I thought it would be. Unfortunately, the very next day, so I've always been athletic growing up. I've always been like, love sports, loved packing the mag, jumping around like a lunatic. I had a soccer match the next day. So I was like, right, I have to go play this now. All the lads were like, so you went to wrestling yesterday? I was like, yeah, I went to wrestling, whatever. So I was playing in midfield, ball came out from my own kick out. I jump up for a header, and someone Harry Kane me and just pushed me in the back. So I came down all my way to my left ankle and tore ligaments in my ankle the very next day. So I had to straight away take a break. And in my head, then for ages, like, should I or should I not go back? Because I loved it, but I was like, maybe that was a sign. I'm a big guy for signs. I like, look for like reasons for things. I was like, maybe that's just a sign that I shouldn't. So everything kind of worked perfectly for me. This is the perfect time for me to become a wrestler, I thought, because the way everything works out. I was working an old job that I didn't like, and eventually found the job I'm in now that I could transition over. So I had a week off between jobs. So I was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go on a holiday here, just 3 days away. I'm going to go away on a holiday. I was just out of the boot from tearing the ligaments about a month or so later. So I was like, I'm going to go on holidays. Fly back into Dublin. I'm on the bus waiting to go back to Limerick, and I look outside. And I'm like, is that Steve Savage outside the bus? So I was like, I must say, make sure I say hi to this lad. So I go out to Steve, and when we stop at the Red Cow, I'm like, "Hi, Steve. You probably don't know who I am, but I was at that open day, whatever." And he goes, "Yeah, man. I'm sure there's 101 people who try to be a wrestler with Steve." And Steve was like, "Yeah, sure. You're going to be a wrestler." I was like, "No, look, I really loved it. I want to come back. It's just I tore ligaments. I'm not sure." And he goes, "Look, just come down Saturday. If you're injured, just do a little bit. You don't have to do much." I was like, "Okay, I'll do that at least." I went down that Saturday, did everything. I was in pain, but I was like, "I need it. I need this. I'm like, I want to train. I want to train." And then from there, I quit soccer, quit Gaelic football. I play music, quit. I quit everything. All of my time went into this. Now I'm just 100% wrestling.
I love
That's
that with
absolutely
Steve though.
amazing.
Like I
Yeah.
remember listening to an interview with Steve, and he was doing a tattoo for some hurler, and the hurler came in, and he was just like,
Yeah.
"Have you ever thought of being a wrestler?" What? He's always got that wrestling mind on him.
I think to be as good as Steve, you have to always just think wrestling. Like it just devours your life. I'm kind of scared because I think I'm getting there. Like there's moments I'd be out with friends and I just start going like thinking about like wrestling, just like moves in my head and stuff.
Lads, you see that sign up there? I could jump off that. So obviously, then you went and started training again with it would have been Phoenix at the
Phoenix,
time.
that's when I
Yeah,
first started training Phoenix.
so it would have been back with Phoenix. So what was it like then, actually getting back in and doing everything and trying to get that rhythm going?
But as soon as I got back, it was just the best feeling ever. Now, I don't know if I was good or not. Probably useless. Like I just started, probably useless. But the one thing that I'm always wear on my top of the hat is day one I could nip up. So we had LJ come down and train us. He still trains us on Tuesday. It's his day to come down. So we're doing our rolls, whatever, and it was like time for nip ups. And I was like, okay. So as I said, I always wanted to be a wrestler. So in my home, like since I was like 8, I was like learning how to roll and learning how to nip up just because I saw Shawn Michaels do it. I thought it was cool. So I learned how to do it on like plywood floors that I'd be like smacking my back against. It's like, ah. So I eventually got it, and I used to bust out the whole time, like playing soccer. I'd like do it, score a goal, celebrate. I'd do a nip up. So it's something I could always do beforehand. And then first day, Joe, everyone's looking, saying, "Oh, this new guy, let's see him." I do a nip up, and everyone's like, "What? Where did that come from?" And now it's gone to the stage where no one reacts. Everyone's just like, "Oh, okay, we get it. You can do a nip up." Ugh. So yeah, it just was the bet. I loved it, and I just wanted to get down there as much as possible. Um, it's addicting. Just the more and more and more training from 1 day a week to 2 day a week to 3 day a week, and just on and on and on like that. It was hard. Some things I really struggled with, but that's life. Anything you do, you're going to struggle at first when it's new to you. But it's the sign of someone that really cares about it and wants to be good at it. If you just keep working, keep working. That's all it is. Just work.
I'll ask you this one just because LJ talked about that. Like the hardest thing he found was, I think he said, was the like doing push-ups and stuff like that. It was nothing to do with inside the ring. So what part of that like was hard to try and get used to and stuff like that?
Footwork. So like the way you move around the ring, where your feet should be at a certain time. Because from my background of sports, my legs just go 190, like I just go so fast and they're everywhere because you have to react to the ball moving like that. Where when
Yeah.
wrestling, it's deliberate footwork. So I found that a bit hard in terms of like actually like moving and push-ups and burpees. They're things I did anyway for like training for other sports, so I was okay with those because I started when I was like in my 20s, so I kind of developed into a bigger person. But it's the little things like the footwork. I got so confused. Like when running the ropes, I'd try and do it as if I was chasing down, like trying to run after someone to get a slide tackle in. I would start pelting them, but my feet would be all over the place. When I turned, I tripped myself up like that because I have long, gangly legs. That's the stuff that really caught me is footwork, or in a headlock, which way your leg should be. The amount of times it looked like I was doing a dance. It's like, is it left or right, left or right, left or right? Like, what way do I do it? And I started like moving them. And I still to this day, that's something I really need to focus on because I don't know, I just find my legs are long and skinny and they just look awkward in certain positions.
Mr. Carroll?
And I suppose when you found out then that Hard Knocks was obviously opening up, that Steve was going to start a few shows within Limerick and stuff like that, how was the excitement, I suppose, for that? I suppose obviously training with him for so long and stuff like
That buzz is just leading up to that first show was oh that like when I know when like everything's done and retired, I think I'll just remember like that whole like couple of months as the best. Like I think the transition into Hard Knocks really proved like for the likes of me, Mike, AJ, and Mercer, we really, really want this. We had no wrestling ring to train in, but we still went down to the gym and did our cardio work. We did our strength and condition. We did keep ourselves ready for when Hard Knocks officially became a thing. AJ, like Alejandro, moved from Spain to be here. When that happened, he could have easily gone, "Well, I'm going home," but he trusted in what was coming, and like he's my best friend now. We're working together. It's the best. So yeah, I think that's just like a testament to like all those three guys of how much work they do. Like never give up about anything. And like even with Mike, he was coming back from an injury. Mercer had to like travel from Kerry just to do that, just to show that he was committed to this thing.
that.
Like there was a lot of hard work that went in. So on the build up to the show, slowly finding out who was doing what or who was on it, putting up the posters, seeing the logos, seeing the new ring, like each little day you're seeing this new thing of something that you're involved in from the get-go, and it just felt such a good, like you knew from the get-go that the vibe was right because if Steve's doing something he doesn't do it wrong, it's done right, and you could see that. It was just special to be a part of it, and like as you can see it's just getting better and better as we go along. I still can't believe that
Oh, no.
first show, like it was just electric.
It was.
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask you about as well. Then I suppose stepping out just onto that stage for the first time, even getting in the ring, involving fans and stuff like that. How was that for you?
So I up until like this year, I've only like say in 2022, I only ever like worked as a manager because I'm not sure if you noticed, I like to talk a lot. So they were happily putting me in there with people, so I'll do all the talking kind of a job. So knowing I got to work with Alejandro, who is honestly one of my best buddies now, if he ever goes back to Spain, I'm gonna be heartbroken. That guy is so funny, and no one even knows. He doesn't even know he's funny. That's the thing about him. He's just so his facial react, way he reacts to things. He comes out with like one-liners. He's so funny. So just knowing that I was going to be there with him and that we got to share that moment together was pretty cool. Especially in Limerick, that was my first time ever performing. In Limerick. So I'd done like kid shows in like Dublin and stuff like that, but stepping out in front of that big of a crowd and just looking around, I remember thinking to myself for a moment like, "Oof, yeah, you're not laughing now, are you guys?" Until about 20 minutes later, and then they saw what happened. But in that moment, they weren't laughing; they were singing my name. And that's the thing as well that I was so appreciative about is how Limerick is as a city, where so many people knew me from, as I said, Gaelic football, soccer, college, all these things. They were all there to support me. So even though they may have laughed, but they knew how important it was to me, and when they saw that I was there, they were all there to support. And that's why that moment is going to be so special because of not only me getting there, but knowing how many people came to support. I was like, oh my God, they care. And I think we got them too. I think we turned them into coming up to see me to wrestling fans because they keep coming back, and it's not for me.
And the thing is, they keep coming back, and then more come. Like I
Mhm.
was saying to lads at Unbroken, I was like, lads, is there like more people here this time? Because I was saying this to one of the lads on the socials. I was saying, Hard Knocks is like, this is our local wrestling. I will
Mhm.
support Hard Knocks as much as I can to keep it here for 5 years time,
Mhm.
for 10 years time. It's our local wrestling. But the fact that people are actively going out, going, lads, you have to see Hard Knocks Pro Wrestling is just unbelievable.
I think that's the sign of it being on a Sunday too. That's the idea that Steve has instilled, where everyone goes to work on a Monday, and you have those Monday blues, and you be chatting at work, and you go, lads, do you see what I was at last night? This is the maddest thing I've ever seen. You have to get down to the next one when it's in Dolan's, and just word of mouth spreading. And you saw that from the first to the second show, and hopefully now for the 16th, same thing happens again. That's just the crowds keep talking. That's what it's all about.
I'll give Alejandro a shout out as well. When Keeping the Fave, the Scoop had put up the video today, when he asked the question, I said, oh, what's it like being the Irish Borat? You could see in his face, he really, really wanted to laugh, but he couldn't. The fact he took it so, like, you could just see, like, once it was said, he went, looked over at you, just trying not to laugh.
That's the biggest problem I feel recording promos with Alejandro and two of the lads from Cork as well, Big Man Shit. When we're recording promos, they always get a fit of the giggles. It rarely happens to me. I'm usually good for because I'm usually the one saying the stupid stuff or doing the stupid movements. But yeah, no, we do like that's one of my favorite things too. Working with Alejandro is that we just have a laugh with each other. I think we bounce off each other well because we have the same childish sense of humor.
So who had, obviously going into Hard Knocks 1, who had the idea to put the two of you together? Or was that just, hey, could we do this thing?
That was something I had in mind for a while because I had the idea that I wanted to work with Ajax. I thought we could do something together that'd be funny. It ended up changing just naturally, but the very first idea of it is we were doing a promo class and we all went up and did promos by ourselves, and none of them were really good because we were all brand new. We didn't know who our characters were, we didn't know anything like that. But I just go, Steve, can I try something with AJ? I've got something that I think would be funny. So AJ looked terrified. He was like, we haven't rehearsed anything. I was like, it's grand, just speak Spanish. He was like, okay, I can do that. So I was like, oh, I'm the legitimate Gallachini, and I got the best young prospect here. Tell him about yourself. And he just went and spoke some Spanish. I just mistranslated everything as if I knew what he was saying. But like our chemistry, you could tell our chemistry was there. So Steve was like, I like that. To try flesh something out. So we worked on that for months and months. It got a bit worse because we kept doing the same thing we did the first time, just more rehearsed, and it wasn't natural. So our natural chemistry wasn't bouncing off. But then by the time of the show, I decided to go, "Do you know what? We're in Limerick. I'm just going to be the most Limerick person ever, but dressed not like the most Limerick person ever. So when you see me, you're like, who's this guy? And I'm like, well, lads, what's the story? Like, oh, well, this lad's clearly from Limerick. And I think you even said it on your podcast review of the first show. It's like, that lad was clearly from Limerick.
There's no hiding it. There really
No,
isn't. Especially if you come out going like, go away.
Yeah. What are you doing? You go on me.
I suppose you transitioned then into Fight Factory. You actually got your debut for Fight Factory and you started working with AJ Scraggs. How was that even getting the experience from up in Dublin?
Oh, that was so special for a different reason because in Limerick, when I got a bit of a cheer when I came out, I was like, well, that's my friends and family. That doesn't count. But I worked really. I had a point with Fight Factory that I really wanted to like debut in a special way. So I had this idea for the Love Island promo, if you've seen it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I had that in my head and I said it to Mercer down the gym. I was like, how, I have this idea. I'm not sure if it could work out well, but that's how I want to debut if we're going to like go down this me and AJ Scraggs route. And he's like, yeah, do it. So I pitched it to everyone involved and they were like, okay, let's see how it works out. So I worked really hard on it, recorded it, edited the whole thing myself, and I showed everyone. And then everyone was straight. It was like, yes, use that, please use that. And I was tempted to put it up on social media beforehand, but I would kill the purpose. I'm happy I didn't now. So the way it worked out was I was waiting behind the curtain, and as soon as I turn and start doing the Love Island thing, I could hear the crowd. I was like, "Oh, this worked!" Like actually, damn, like that was a moment where I was like, "These people don't know who I am," but by one video, I made them care a little bit, which was pretty cool. And I appreciate like Fabio and LJ as well for like really playing me up of as Scraggs was the one no one cares about, and they're like, "He's so cool. I love this guy." So that really helped with getting people to like me, I think. But yeah, no, I'm
100%.
really happy with that moment. Getting to be in the ring with the two of those, they're two guys that I respect so much, and with Scraggs, getting to work with him, I'm really excited for that because I think that dynamic is going to be more like my original idea with Alejandro AJ. I can't get rid of AJ's. AJ's all over the place, but I think me and AJ's friendship just was like we couldn't hide it anymore, so we had to just kind of lean into yeah we're buddies. Whereas odd couple stuff with AJ Scraggs, I think we can really get a good like story out of this, which I'm excited for. We have a few ideas for the next one too, so keep an eye out for what we're planning on doing.
I will give you props for that Love Island thing. It even had me absolutely laughing. It's honest to God, one of the best, I'd say best debut promos I've seen when it comes to Irish wrestling.
Thank
Like
you.
even yeah, even on the socials that got praise on there, I was like, yeah, you cannot say this was terrible. This was absolutely brilliant.
It was perfect storm as well because Love Island was on. See, what happened was I had the idea originally because on their February show, it was meant to be doing something on that, so that's what the idea was for. The personal like life stuff happened that I couldn't be on that show, so it was pushed back to March. I was like, oh no, is Love Island even still going to be on? Happened perfectly that the final was that Monday, so we just got in there in time while it was still relevant. So yeah, and it gave me more time to make sure it looked well. That like it wasn't just a thrown together video. If I was doing something like that, it had to be done right. And I think that's something that like Steve has kind of like really like taught us too is with like putting stuff on social media, just make sure it looks good because it goes noticed when things have effort and look nice and sound nice.
Absolutely. How do you even find it just working even with Fight Factory? Obviously, a company that has been around for many, many years and has had seen many, many legends pass through. Like,
Yeah, it's really special. I have to thank all those guys for giving me an opportunity. Because like I still can't believe that like I'm on their shows, if that makes sense. I'm still new enough for this. And the fact that I get to Joe have a prominent spot there now, um, like not many companies will give you the opportunity to be that creative in your debut. So a lot of like respect goes out to those guys for giving me the opportunity, and thankfully, as you said, people seem to enjoy it. So that's the main thing.
So
100%.
obviously then as well, not only are you doing Fight Factory and Hard Knocks, but you're also doing stuff up in Nass. I have to bring up the Cian connection. We brought this up with Cian Noonan. Like what want to talk about the Cian connection?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. I really enjoy the Keen Connection stuff. I just hope we can keep doing it, man. It's way too fun for no reason, just by chance that we were both there the same day and both happened to be in that match against Steve. I heard Keane say as well where he came up with the name afterwards. I was like, yeah, using that, stealing that. Like I wasn't even meant to be in Nace that day. I was just meant to be helping load, bring the van, the van up, and I was like, I'm not gonna go up. Oh, I'm tired, whatever. But they were like, no, Keane, come up. And I was like, you know what? It would be good to see an LW show. Ended up getting up there, and all of a sudden, then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you and Keane Noonan. I was like, All right, cheers. So sometimes in life things just happen for a reason.
And it does keep getting better because obviously then NLW had their I think it was their last show. The Keane connection has grown
Yeah.
with people who aren't even called Keane.
For one night only, anyone can be a Keen if you stand with us. I had that idea with Mercer because me and Mercer, we have way too much fun with ourselves of like, oh, wouldn't this be hilarious? And most of the things we say never come true. But that time it did come true where we were saying, man, imagine how funny it would be if anyone that was with us that day, we just called him Keen. He was like, yeah, that's so funny. And just pretend Keen and just get like way further down the line to have people who are clearly aren't Keen, well-known people be called Keen. Like these mad ideas how funny it could be, but I just really enjoy doing those shows. I think NLW is like a really good place for. Sorry, just it's always packed. You have everyone in one space in front of you, so it's a really good way to just Joe work on like all the stuff you want to work on and have a good day out and interact with a crowd. I was really happy I got to like talk at the last one, cut a promo. It was really good fun, and obviously the results didn't go our favor again, but we're learning the King connection. There's some things we need to iron out about where we're going. I think the problem is we're not getting any offense in, but if we can learn how to do that, we might have a chance next time.
Can't wait until
Hopefully the next time. I was just going to say, hopefully next time it's not against Steve Savage, and you might have a better chance.
I was just about to say to him, say it there. You should ask Steve just to be a key, and maybe like this way it doesn't hurt you guys. You know, just hey, instead of hurting us tonight, do you want to be a key in?
Unfortunately, I think Steve Savage is too much of a competitor for that.
It can be called Key and Savage. Like, come on, it just.
I think that would be the funniest thing ever if Steve came out of the King.
Hope for one day.
Maybe.
It's Caramel.
I was stepping across the ring from Steve because like you see that intensity in his eyes when he steps into a ring and that pacing around and everything like that. Like we talked about it with Keane as well, and Keane was like, "Yeah, you just know you're in for a rough day." Like,
yeah, it was really special getting to be in the ring with Steve as he's the person who's trained me the whole like obviously LJ Cleary too, but day in day out, it's Steve that has taught me so much. Not even as just a wrestler, as a person too. So I really do like appreciate everything there. So being in the ring with him, I was a bit luckier because I'd seen that before in training, so I know like the mannerisms. But still, when you look at the crowd and look at that intensity, you're like, oh wow, like this is what a wrestler is, you know. And then getting battered doesn't help either when you really feel the intensity too. It is not great.
So if people ask you, just be like lads, I got lost in his eyes. That's why we lost. Just look at him, like God. That's Caramel.
100%. I suppose moving on to the next Hard Knock show, then obviously you got to work with the likes of the same Mr. Charlie and stuff like that, and getting I suppose have an actual full match in Hard Knocks. How was that rolling around and then getting the ideas of the matches and getting stuff rolling?
So I really enjoyed that because I think the promo to start of match was just me and AJ. So that was us planning that out for AJ. What could we say here? What will Limerick like here? How can we get like our relationship over to the crowd? And I think we did that part just perfectly. Getting him in the Limerick jersey, in the video, teaching hurling and stuff. Really enjoyed making stuff like that with him. My favorite part of that video though is when he tries to catch the sliotar. That's his actual legitimate reaction. He's not selling. I didn't tell him when we arrived up by the sliotar and a hurley in hand, and he has to hold it. Was like, no, not until we have the camera on. So the first time of him trying to swing it is his legitimate first time trying to swing a hurley, and the first time of him trying to catch a ball is the sliotar hitting him there like that and realizing how sore it is, and he just goes, "Oh, puta madre!" He's like, "You're crazy, man! You're crazy! These are Limerick people crazy. How do they play this sport?"
We get used to it.
Yeah, you do it from a young age. No rolling around like that in football.
But then obviously, you go in then, and it's yourself and Sam. Was that your idea to step up with Sam, or was it just like, oh yeah, you're gonna fight Sam, and it's gonna be the best thing ever?
So I really wanted to work with Sam since I first saw him. I think he's one of the most creative, one of the most fantastic wrestlers out there. Just the way his mind works, and I thought that'd be a great experience for myself, but also Joe would be an interesting way to get him into the debut in Hard Knocks. To show Limerick what his character would be like. So yeah, as soon as I found out that it was going to happen, I was like, I'm just going to let a lot of this be his idea because I knew that he knew his character better than anybody else. And we had a lot of help from people like obviously that like were around of what we should do. And I think I was the happiest I've ever been in my life when I knew I was going to hit myself with that frying pan or that pot. I was so happy I got to do that. It
Can
may
I,
have hurt, but I was so happy.
can I ask you, did
Yeah.
you at all like do you know the famous like spot with Mr. McMahon and Austin the hospital and hits
Yes.
him with the pan?
Yes.
Austin for ages was trying to find that sweet spot of what makes a sound. Did you do that at all?
No, I just kind of picked it up, gave it a tap, and just went a few times. Like, all right, that sounds okay.
You got two perfect sounding shots. You heard the dunk, like the bonk on the rope, the bonk on the head. I was like, oh my God, that was brilliant.
Yeah, sometimes it just kind of works out. It's meant to be. I remember just lying there after a hit, and I was like, man, that sounded awful. Like a proper crash.
Man, I must be really hurt right now. That was terrible.
My favorite thing about that is when my head cocks back. It really does look like I got knocked out.
It was a brilliant spot that led to me making a brilliant video. So thank you for that one.
Yeah, that video is pretty good, to be fair. It's funny. I can see the funny side.
See, now you're slowly
John,
getting.
I don't like this. Talking to you guys made me realize you're actually nice guys. That's really annoying. I've said things on this podcast I never would have said. You're tricking me.
It's all manipulation.
You're just gonna cut a promo on us now at the next Hard Knox show or something.
Where does Aegis go? Where are they?
You see those three Aegis there in the corner. I hated them, and now for some reason I like them.
Why do I like these guys? Alejandro, why do I like these guys?
Just get the pan and just throw it at Carmo.
Oh, I don't want any more pans. I'm done with pans.
As well, then at the end of the match, you got a bit of a bite in the arse there.
Yeah.
Was that just Sam in the moment, or there's no way you went? Yeah, just bite me in the arse at the end of the match.
I think it might have been me. I can't remember. It might have been me, but all I know is that I definitely got excited about it. I was like, "Oh, please, yeah, that'd be hilarious. That'd be so funny." And then Sam was like, "I'll see how I feel in the moment." So that was his kind of, "I'll read what's going on." But I really don't know what this says about me. I hope no one actually that like knows me in real life is listening to this podcast, because knowing that I said that, although most people know I'm a lunatic anyway, like so they probably be like, "Yeah, this sounds about right."
They've been to Hard Knocks. It's too late now.
Yeah, it's been too late. They've seen it.
Exactly. So obviously, Unrivaled was amazing. Unbroken was phenomenal. A solid 10 out of 10
Oh,
show.
so special.
What's the excitement like for Undisputed now?
I can't even like put it into words almost. Like it's just that feeling of, that I think we understand who we are. We understand what Limerick want. That we just kind of get it now. So hopefully, like, I don't want to jinx this. Just it's still hard work that needs to be put in. It's still Joe letting people know, still Joe getting the word out. I feel like that the atmosphere there that night could be amazing. We got some of the best names in the country and from abroad. We've got some of the best up and coming talent, I think. Everyone that has been at Hard Knock so far, the energy there during the day, everyone just knows what the story is. They know what's needed, and I think that just boils down to Steve and Leon. That's them setting expectations from the get go. They know what they need to do. They let us know what we need to do, and just environment. It's not stressful. It's just everything's done right the way wrestling should be. Yeah, man, it's just really, really nice to be a part of it. So I'm very excited for this show on the 16th. I just think it's going to be a perfect blend of what Limerick needs. It's going to be a mixture of lads thumping the head off each other and having a good time.
And that's what Hard Knocks is all about. And because this comes up before Hard Knocks, if you are living in Limerick or outside, like maybe up in Dublin or something, look, lads, the show starts at it's 5:30 this time, isn't it?
Yeah, doors at
5:30.
5, show at 5:30. So it's earlier. So even people outside of Limerick that wanted to travel, you can still get home early.
Come down, seriously, get your tickets. Like I've said this so many times, Hard Knocks Unrivaled was brilliant. Unbroken topped it even more. It is a great, fun night of wrestling. Come down and see the fucking lads do what they do. Seriously, You cannot underestimate. No, it's not underestimate. What's the word I'm trying to fucking think of here? It's a,
Undersell.
you cannot undersell how good Hard Knocks actually is, and props to Steve and the lads because they have an amazing thing going, and it's you guys as well. Obviously, Hard Knocks isn't what it is without the you guys coming up yourself, Mikey, Francis, and everybody else that's still in the training.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
No problem. Oh,
But even 100%, like we've mentioned this so many times, and like if you're ever thinking, if you've looked at the show on YouTube or whether you've seen it on post, it's like 20 quid. Name how many things you can do for 20 quid other than
Exactly.
like go to a fantastic wrestling show on an average on a Sunday night and have a few points, enjoy a bit of wrestling, and life is good.
But the way I've seen it so far is there's something for everybody there. I've had people from all walks of life, work, sport, college, family, and they've all said, I can't believe how much fun I had at that. Like most people said that like they were only there, Joe, that I know personally were there for me, but they're invested in storylines. One of my friends from work is saying he can't wait for the main event of the next show. He couldn't believe what happened with Butch and Terry the last time. And then I showed him the interview that was done with Colin today, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's a street fight!" He's like, "Oh, it's like sorry, Cian, I do not care about your match anymore. I only care about what this main event is going to be, and rightfully so, because what a main event is going to be."
we were the exact same.
100%.
Like it broke when we were in work today, and I said to Kevin, one of the other Marks here, I was like, "It's a Limerick street fight. Imagine this thing goes out to the fucking streets of Limerick. How much fucking fun's that gonna be?"
To be
So
fair,
the
every
fun
Saturday,
around.
every Saturday night in Limerick is a Limerick street fight.
Yeah.
The difference now, it's in a wrestling promotion on a Sunday.
Yes, exactly. So maybe just follow it over to Saturday. Just keep scrapping the whole way into the ring.
But this time, obviously, with Undisputed, it's not going to be the Gallachini way. It's going to be the Alejandro way. You think he's got some better tactics than yourself, or
So we've actually received some bad news this week where you might see it on social media soon, but Chris Kirby's not too happy with us. I'm being honest. I don't know why. I don't know what that guy's problem is, but he thinks we're not performing. I don't know what he's on about. People cannot stop speaking about Alejandro Gallachini, but he seems to have an issue with us, so we've got some figuring out to do. But all I'm saying is, if I am not on the show because of Chris Kirby, I'm going on holidays. I don't care. I deserve a holiday. I've been working hard. Don't you agree? I should go on holidays?
I do. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you, Carmo. I always liked you most.
Although it will be a worsened Hard Knock show without Gallachini and Alejandro.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, but like he'll come to his senses. He'll hear you say that and know the wise man you are, and surely he change his ways.
I think that's my holiday. It's you on holidays, so I'm gonna go with that.
Oh,
Anyway, so yeah,
Disrespect.
it's not disrespect when it's the truth. Hard Knocks Undisputed. Make sure everybody comes down, get your tickets and stuff like that. You might get to see Gallachini or might not. I'm not sure if somebody sent Chris Kirby a DM or not, but who knows. Mr. Carmo, do you have many more questions remaining?
I have two more questions around. So one is Gallachini. I do want to ask you about being a big rising star in the Irish scene, as we've seen you.
I wouldn't use that word. Oh my God, that's a lot of pressure.
But as we've seen you through Hard Knocks and Fight Factory, and obviously NLW as well. If you were to look back, I believe you said you started training in 2021.
End of 2021, say November.
Yeah. So if you were even to go back to 2020, Cian Gallachini, what would Cian Gallachini say about current Gallachini?
Proud of you, man. That's all he'd say. I'd say, like, especially 2020, pretty bad year. The pandemic.
Oh,
A lot of things happened that year for me. Not to get too emotional, but like 2020 wasn't a great year for Gallachini, but I kept working on myself. I actually ran a marathon the following year. So during all that, during lockdowns, I need to get something to keep my mind off it. So I started doing 5Ks, which became 10Ks, which became more and more. And I was like, okay, maybe I might try run a marathon. So yeah. So if you ever wondered what this was on the back of my arm, this tattoo here, that's what it's for running the marathon. So yeah.
Until now, I'm not even. I've never actually noticed that.
Maybe because my hands are moving too much like that.
Probably, it's just like flying it back and forth across the ring.
Yeah,
I just thought it was part of the ring.
So yeah, no, that's what that's for. So that's something that I'm very grateful that I did, because then when I finally got the opportunity to wrestle in 2021, also, my fitness was pretty good. So I wasn't like dead after training. I was sore, but cardio wise, I've always been pretty good. So 2020, Cian, would just be so happy that I'm doing what I love, that I'm focused, and just grateful for like people like you, Cameron, who said call me a rising star. I like even me now says that's like way too much. Say that to me in 2020, I would have just been roaring laughing. I'd be like, what's gonna happen in the future? There's no way.
I mean, like even I'll say, you think about what you've done the last couple of months, like between and how many people now are behind Gallachini. You could say you're a rising star in the Irish scene.
Thank you guys, thank you. Yeah, because mad to believe I had my debut match in January.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Been a
consider
quick
it
three
from
months.
November, right?
and here we are. Like Jesus Christ, like. But the thing is, as well, like you had your first match, but like you also had your first show. What was
Yes,
November?
November.
So
Yeah,
like it's even crazier, you know.
it
But
happens
look,
fast.
as I always say to the lads when they come on here, small goals is all you got to set. And when you
Exactly.
start, that's when you start to feel better about yourself. It's just small goals, and you can
hmm
check them all off, So obviously, then we have another 9 months a year left of 2024. What's like the plans now for Mr. Gallachini?
I kind of have to reevaluate. I've kind of like hit like my two main goals I had this year, which was to debut in a Fight Factory over 18 show and be in the same ring as LJ Cleary. So I kind of did both of those. So I honestly just think just keep working, keep training. That's the main goal. Is if you want to be good at this, you have to work at it. So it's just not get complacent, keep working, keep training, keep getting in the ring, keep learning more, keep putting in the same effort with promos, keep getting to the gym. Just try and keep that. If I can stay consistent at that, then I feel like I'll be ending the year pretty happy.
Yeah, and I'll ask you just one more thing as well, because obviously there's people who would live in Limerick, maybe in Ennis, Shannon,
hmm
wherever, who might be 18, 19,
Mhm.
16, 17 years of age, the same spot as you, saying I should really do this, but I don't know. To the people, if they're listening, what would you say? Because obviously you're someone that bet on yourself and now you're doing it.
So the first thing I'd say to them is, if you love wrestling, why not? It was something that I wanted to do for so long, as I said at the start, but was too afraid. Like looking back now, I was like, what was I afraid of? There's people down there that are going to end up being friends for life that are going to welcome you in because they know that you love the same thing that they love. And then the second thing I'll say to them when they do come down is just stick with it and be committed. It's one of the main things Steve said to me when I started. There was no fear of that because I kind of got addicted, but it is hard at the start. Like for me with my footwork, bumping sucks, hitting the rope sucks. It sucks at first. You're gonna be bad, but don't let being bad stop you from doing something that you love. Because the more you work at it, the better you'll get, and you won't look back. You'll just be like, "This is why I went down that first day." So it's just commitment. You just gotta take that leap sometimes. That is like my favorite movie of all time is Into the Spider-Verse, and that's kind of like a quote that helped me do it. Is Joe when it's like it's just a leap of faith, Miles. Sometimes you just gotta take that leap of faith and just do what you want to do and just keep working.
See
If
what
it's bad,
happens.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's bad, as long as you're happy, as long as you're working.
Love it. Love it. Mr. Carmel.
Absolutely. That's kind of it for me. I've not more to say. You've said it all, Keith.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that. Like you said it all.
He's just trying to say it in a nice way. It's like, yeah, you've said everything now.
Shut up. Please shut up.
Quiet now.
That's it all. That's it
But
all.
honest to God, look, it's been great having you on for the chat and everything. You were scared you wouldn't hit the hour. It's nearly the hour now, like, so you've done well.
Oh,
Done
Jesus.
extremely well.
But obviously, as we said, Undisputed is April 16th. By the time this comes out, I think it'll be like 2 weeks away. Lads, come down, get your tickets. It's on at 5:30. It's going to be an absolutely fun night of wrestling. And you see Alejandro Gallachini come out with their stepbrother t-shirts that I recommended.
It's in the process.
Yes!
I'm probably not, but I mightn't be by the next show, but it's in the process.
I think that'd be the funniest fucking thing ever.
Oh, I can't wait. I haven't seen it. It's in the process. I haven't even seen what it will look like, but I'm working on it, is what I'm saying.
One day.
One day.
Mr. Carmo, I'll let you do your final words.
100%. Gallachini, thank you so much for coming on. And we obviously can't wait for the Hard Knocks on April 16th. And again, if you haven't decided to go, do 20 quid a ticket. You'll never regret it. But again, thank you so much for joining us, Cian. We have been the 5Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, but for another week, we are officially ding, ding, done.
Finished.